Sometimes you have a lot of emotions built up in you, and these emotions may be positive or negative, and you find that you are not able to express them towards the person who these emotions are really, to be attributed to. Now, one of the key ways that helps us to not only be able to express our emotions, express our thoughts, and be able to deal with unresolved, conflicts, internal and, external conflicts, is a therapeutic approach or activity referred to as the unsent letters. So therapeutic unsent letters are just one aspect of therapeutic journaling. And so it's an important activity that you can learn to do in order to be able to support yourself mentally and emotionally. Now, what are therapeutic unsent letters? We can describe them as letters that have a recipient but do not end up with that recipient. And so instead of talking to the person, instead of writing to the person and having them receive it, when there's a difficulty with how they will even receive the content of the letter, you write this letter, pour out your emotions, your thoughts, and whatever you want to say on paper, or if you are using a digital device, putting it in there, but then you do not forward it or send it to that recipient. So these letters can be addressed to anyone at all, whether the person is alive or dead. So if it is a loved one you have lost and you couldn't say your final words to this person, you can write it down as a letter to them. The letter may not end up going to them, but it is an avenue for you to be able to express all the built up, regrets and pain and the fond memories that you would have wanted to share with them. You can write on certain topics. Maybe if you have, a quarrel with somebody and you couldn't make up with the person, and there's no way of getting to see or meet that person again, you can write an unsent letter, discussing or talking about how the whole event was not something you, upon reflection, think should have been allowed to persist, and forgiving the person and hoping that they also forgive you. So that letter at the end of the day will not be sent to that individual really, but it is a letter you are writing with them in mind, and writing it as though they will read it. And it's a very helpful tool for emotional reconnection, and for bringing closure to a lot of disturbances that we have mentally and emotionally. So amongst other things, there are some reasons why you would need or you would want to write an unsent letter, a therapeutic unsent letter. And we'll talk about three of them. The first one, as you may have realized from the preliminary, thoughts, is that unsent letters serve as a medium for emotional expression. And so it allows you to express your emotions in a safe and controlled environment where there's no physical object or person to react or respond to your expression of emotions. So your own words, pouring out your anger, pouring out your frustration towards that boss, towards that friend, pouring out your joy, expressing it in ways that maybe you may not be able to do when others are around. You pour it out on paper. And as you read over the letter that you have written, either expressing positive emotions or negative emotions, it helps you. It has a cathartic effect, in a sense that it can help you to resolve your emotional, deficits or excesses that may be there. The second key reason is that it helps you with clarity and insight concerning situations that you have written about, or issues that you may not have been able to resolve. And so clarity and insight through that act of writing a letter is something that can be very helpful. So when you pour out your thoughts on the paper, you pour out your feelings, writing as though you are really writing to the person who got you in such a situation that you regret. As you read over it, it gives you some clarity on probably some of the things that you have said in the letter that may not really be the case. So it gives you the opportunity to read over the letter you are writing to that person, and to see, do some reflection upon it, and then gives you some insight into areas that probably you should relook at, and certain things that may or may not have been done right. And so clarity and then the insight that it brings to you is one of the key advantages of writing these therapeutic unsent letters. And the third one, which will be the final, although there are many, is the closure that it brings. Now, psychological closure is when you have been able to bring an end to a particular conflict, internal conflicts, or interpersonal conflicts that you have, and certain feelings, troubling feelings that have not left when someone disappointed you in a relationship, when you lost a parent, lost a loved one, when you lost your job, when you failed in something that you thought would turn out fine. So they are unresolved issues around you that are making it difficult for you to move on. If we say you have gained closure, it means that you have come to a point where you either accept the reality and move on, whether or not you get the needed answers or you do not. You have been able to close that chapter of your life and proceed to the next chapter. So writing a letter can provide you with this sense of closure. And although the letter, as we are saying, will not be sent to a recipient, at the end of the day, it helps you psychologically to close certain chapters of your life. And all the emotions that have been built up, all the troubling thoughts and all that, as we mentioned for reason 2, because of the clarity and the insight that comes with going over the letter and reflecting upon it, it can help you to bring the sense of closure to whatever may have been troubling you. Now we'll quickly look at how to go about writing this unsent letter. So number one, you have to choose your recipient. Who are you writing to? Who do you want to write this letter to, this unsent letter? So if I have had a broken friendship, a broken romantic relationship, a broken marriage, and this is the person who over the past few days or weeks or years you have been struggling to get over the whole breakup, you can write a letter that is addressed to that particular individual. So the recipient of the letter you are going to write is the first thing to decide. It could also be a time in your childhood, the inner child that has not healed from trauma and abuse. if that is the person you want to write to, encouraging that inner child that experienced a lot of abuse emotionally, physically, verbally, writing to that inner child, that younger version of yourself, telling that version of yourself how you want to move on from the trauma. So determine, number one, the first key step is to determine who the letter is going to. The second thing is to set the tone for your letter. So are you writing a letter that is going to, lambast the person, is going to criticize the person, or you are writing a letter that is going to encourage the person, tell the person about fond memories? Set the tone and the nature of what you are going to communicate. And in writing letters to people, although you may not be communicating orally, in writing as well, when you read a letter, you can sense the tone in which it is written. And so the kinds of words that will be used and all that gives you the nature of the letter. So determine, number two, the second step is to determine the tone of your letter. The third bit is to greet the person, hello, or all these initial salutations, as we would do in a letter, whether formal or informal. So you say hello to the person or extend greetings to the person, and you go ahead to express your feelings. That is the step 4. So your thoughts and your feelings, be open about it. Why you are writing the letter to this person, why you are writing the letter to this ex, why you are writing the letter to this version of yourself who was a child abused on several occasions, to that future self that you are anticipating you will be. Express your thoughts and emotions with this particular person, recipient of the letter. Share your experiences with the person in your letter in your own way. So there's no particular form that you should follow. Write as you will, as you would have said, put it on paper. And you don't need to be the best, writer around to be able to get this done. Your English doesn't have to be the superb one. If you can write in a local language, you do so. Whichever way that you can be able to share your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences. And in any case where it's a letter of forgiveness or a letter that is trying to close a chapter that you have been struggling to close, you share your reasons why you want to close that chapter and move on with your life after the breakup, and move on with your life after leaving that particular workplace, or move on from with your life after that person who was your closest pal, your closest person, had passed on. You share your reasons and why it is important for you to be able to move on. And in that letter as well, you want to, as you express your thoughts, your feelings, and your perspectives, experiences, at the stage 4, you also want to be able to take the other person's perspective. So acknowledge, for instance, that you may have played a role in that trouble that started, or in that particular problem that happened, or how they contributed to making you happy if it is a positive letter you are writing. So you write in there how they have also been of help, or the contributions they made in the particular reason that the letter is being addressed. And the final step, which is the step 5, is to conclude your letter and be able to say goodbye. So you conclude your letter and be able to say goodbye. So if it is a letter about letting go of a time in your past, or letting go of somebody, you write it there, and you wish them well, and you bring your letter to a close. And so those are the 5 key steps that you go through. Now, when your letter is done, whether a digitized letter or written on paper, you will have to decide whether you want to keep this letter after some time, or you throw it away. A certain movie I watched some time past, I think Letters to God. I think in the movie, the little boy will write letters that, he is addressing to God. He went through a very tough time with a particular condition, chronic condition, I think cancer or so. And so the letters are written, and I think the mailman will pick it up, and there was a particular place this man was putting them, and he went through the letters, I believe, one time, and saw the amazing things that this boy was writing, and it became a source of encouragement to him as well. So you may decide whether these letters will be kept somewhere in your room, or after some time you would dispose them off. That is up to you to decide. But the key thing is that you are writing the unsent letters for therapeutic purposes. And if you need the assistance of a professional to guide you, you can seek the help of a counselor, a psychologist, or a mental health practitioner within your jurisdiction or your space. You can also send a private message and we can pick it up from there if there's any, personal touch you want to give to this particular, activity. Thank you so much. I want to end it here. And I believe that this particular therapeutic activity will be one that you consider, practicing and getting used to, because it can help, and it is an important way of handling emotions and dealing with troubles that you are struggling to let go of. Write that unsent letter, write it to that past self, that future self, that person you love so much that you lost, and I'm sure that you find it so useful. If you consider this particular topic and lesson something that has been useful, I would want you to subscribe to the channel, follow me on this page, and I'm sure that the subsequent lessons I'll do will come your way and you will also find them useful. Stay safe and bye-bye.